Hi guys, this is Cobra Tom,
And Ben and Lily.
and we are going to do a video today. We are doing Cobra. Well, here I have the massively huge Bug vehicle. This is a 1988 vehicle. It's a Cobra vehicle, and I have the extraordinarily expensive Secto Viper. And I will just be going over the file card. I don't actually have the file card. I just kind of got one offline, and I will let you see that. And I'll do a tiny bit of an explanation of it. I am going to go over one of this toy's major flaws, where all of the vehicles that I have seen, including my own, I had to re-glue mine. I was putting it in and the tab broke. You're supposed to put, I hope you can still see that, right there's the tab. And you're supposed to stick the thing on like so. I'm having a little more trouble than I thought I would. Yeah, see? And it just broke again. And it's supposed to just be like that, but it so easily breaks when you take it on and off. I'm going to have to re-glue that. And that's its one huge major flaw. I'm going to point that out right away because it's just an unnecessary thing that without it, since I broke it, again, anyway, I'm going to just take this off and I'm going to show you that it fits on there without that clip. That clip is supposed to just hold this on, and you're supposed to, it's supposed to be on there, and then you're supposed to pull the clip up just a tiny bit to release it. But it doesn't need that, as you can see, and these clips often break, and it's very sad, and I'm going to have to re-glue this. This is such a sad thing. All right, now I'm going to go over the really cool parts of this. Now, as you can see, you've got this bubble canopy, which you can take off. And you can put a figure in there with these horrendous seatbelts, which I do not like. But here we go. I am going to put the figure in there. I'm going to raise up his arms so that I can get past the seatbelt. And I got to click the seatbelt in because it's really annoying. And I have a hard time putting my fingers in there. And I'm going to hopefully be able to just do this quick. And I can get it lit up enough for you to see the figure inside the bug. Now, there he is. See, most people put it in the pod section, in this section. But that's not what drives the craft. This is what drives the craft. And you are putting the figure in there. Oh no! There you go. And I'm going to move the gun. And I'm going to move this. And look, there is a spot for a second figure. And I'm hopefully going to be able to show you that in just a minute here. All right, let's get a second figure. I'm going to take it, even though this isn't an aquatic figure, But I'm going to just go put the guy's arms back down. And I'm going to put the second figure slide this out of the way. And I'm going to try to put the Astro Viper in there. And I hope that you can see that. There you go, a spot for a second figure. That's very nice. And then you can close it up, and you've got your two figures inside there. Now, what I have here is a couple of... to get this far, I had to buy a handful of these to even get the pieces I need to finish this vehicle. It's kind of a process. Should have just saved my money a little better and just bought a complete one that was unbroken. But here we are. So what you don't normally see in the ship itself is this really nice metal looking texture pattern on the Craft's main drive system. Got the two seat belts, got the two seats, very nice. And then you have instrumentation, which, let me put the seat belts in just so you can see it without those being in the way. And on here, there is a definite raised part, and an instrumentation and another raised part that would not ever be really seen. Many of these dials, I'm guessing, is pressure and water, tightness and seal and everything. You do not want this thing when it's underwater. It's a submarine, so you don't want any of your positions to start filling with water. So I'm sure a lot of this instrumentation is about that. Water pressure, heat, stuff like that. And I'm thinking that these probably control the guns. And here's what it looks like if you had the figures in there. And as you can see, that looks pretty nice. And I'm guessing the reason the submarine, the Secto Viper, is yellow is because everything's red and green in there. And I think he's just meant to sit, to be able to kind of pop and you can see him a little better. Now, the instrument panel that I showed you that might control weapons may control these heavy cannons. They go 360, go up, and can go down. And if you're curious, this is the pivot that they're on and the peg that goes into the hole. The peg is kind of small but it works. It works really nicely. So, got this, you plug it in, and then the gun goes in between there and can pivot up and down. And there's two of them. And they can pivot up, and they can pivot, if you need them to, quite a range down. It's only being stopped by the machine itself. Oops. See? Oh, this is good. I'll just show you. See? And up and down it goes. And goes down that way. So very nice heavy cannons. Or machine guns, possibly. On the door are 2 missiles. And these are one of 4 that are the same. They have a trident kind of spear-like front, a fin, and then, well, it's a little flat on the bottom. But that's for putting the peg on. And you got another one just like it. And this, if you hold it right, oh, I know that sounds terrible. I do. I know that that sounds terrible. But it will stay up. So if you were to say, I don't think you'd actually ever do that, but say you wanted to fire a missile from the top side like this, you would technically have that option that it could fire from a higher position. And I can't get this back on. There we go. I'm going to actually, before I do these 2 doors and these bubbles, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. And this is a pontoon that I am thinking when it is in the water that it's supposed to stabilize, because on the front, I'll take the missiles off and the torpedo off, and I will show you those in just a minute. But I'm going to show you, there's a intake with a nice rotating fan. Well, the fan doesn't spin, but you know what I mean. It on the real, oh, let's see. I am trying, there we go. I think you can see that better. There we go, there we go. Now you can see it better. And then it's got the exhaust. And this is the front. And there is a bit of a tab there and a bit of a hole right there. So you line that up and it clicks into place. And on the other side, there's a similar thing here. There's a bit of there's a prong. And this has 2 pieces, or 2 connector pieces. And see, clicks in real nicely. And both sides have that. On the back here, it's got the nice universal tow hook. I'm going to show, even though they're not exactly diver's helmets or anything, I am using my Fun School, you'll see that video later, but my Fun School Toxo Viper and my American Toxo Viper as the pontoon riders here. Not only do I think with the helmet that they look pretty good on there, but you might, want somebody with a helmet on and doing all of this stuff, especially if they're going to submerge the vehicle into water. You're going to probably want somebody with a nice helmet. So I'm using them. They're also from the 1988 year. And as you can see, I put the missiles one way and the missiles facing the other way. You can technically also do that with these. You could put one forward and one backwards. And here's the missile. It's another one of the Trident ones. And here's the torpedoes. I haven't heard anybody missing anything or these breaking, but do be careful because this is a three-piece construction. There are warheads and exhaust. So a front and a back. And these are rather large. They're bigger than a figure. Let's get another one of these out, and it's bigger than a figure. Quite a bit bigger than the figure. Here's a figure, and here's the missile. Torpedo, I think this one technically is. Okay, well, it's not cooperating. Okay, well, fine, but you can definitely see. Okay. You can put these on top and put this on the bottom, but if this is a torpedo and these are missiles, you definitely want the missile. However, the torpedo could fall and go. So it could be up to how you want to do it. Just going to take him off there just for a minute. And I'm going to show you that there is some details. There's two handlebars on both ends. There's two handlebars on each end that figures can kind of hold on to. There's instrument paneling. And I'm sure that these fire the missiles. What this detail is, I'm not really sure. But it's nice to have it. And it's got a real grating feeling. So it's very unusual, very interesting. Now we're going to have the hidden compartments open up. And as you can see, and I will zoom in. Right there is a little hovercraft skidoo thing. And inside there is like a grating. It's very interesting. And this goes back down and you just lift it up by the little tab here. And mine's a little bit warped, but you can click it all the way down and snap it back into place. And I will turn them over to show that you get two of them. And I am going to put these like that. I'm going to show you two very quick things about this. The skidoo handles go up like this. And there's a foot peg for the driver. And once again, I will be using a Tuxo Viper. The reason I have so many Tuxo Vipers is because I have a little fleet of imp tanks. And figure on there. There we go. here. And he can hold them fairly well. I know on camera it looks like they're the wrong way when you lift them up. It looks wrong, but they hold on to them well and they stay up. Now each of these has armaments of two, well, probably, two probably torpedoes. Very small torpedoes. Well, considering how massive the guns and the missiles and the torpedoes and everything are, these are quite small. And they're a bit hollow. But they do have some nice detail on. Now, if you do get one, and you do decide that you want to get one of these Bugs complete, I would just save up the extra money and buy the complete vehicle with the missiles. These can be very expensive on their own. They're hard to track down, but not impossible. Now, the other mode that this has, before I do that, let me just show you the interesting engine detail on there. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And there's the foot peg. This would definitely have a second mode. I don't know why this is, and I don't know anyone who'd ever actually do this, but you can technically use it as a backpack. Let me get a foot peg here. And then what you can do is you could put a couple of actual divers in there. We'll move this. And then you've got room for the divers. You can put one here. And then one right here. So depending on how you want to do it, you could have the vehicles in there or an extra soldier in there, which I think is pretty cool. Before we get to the pod, I'm going to show the back of this. And I am going to do that. So there we go. I'm going to get a couple of these figures out of the way. Put that there. And I am going to show you. There's one really great thing and one kind of, well, not so cool thing to do with this. Now, it will be kind of difficult to see. Most people would do it from the back, from the bottom here and lift up. But what you're supposed to do is lift up from here. And it can click in. Listen. You undo it. And it clicks back in. So you're supposed to lift it from these tabs. And the gun can do a 360. It has a double barrel machine gun or cannon. Which kind of looks like, I didn't even think of this before. Kind of looks like where the missile, yeah. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't put a missile on a gun, but I'm just, the slots were big enough for that. That was very interesting. So then the double barrel cannon has one tiny, tiny flaw, though. Now here is the inside of this, and I will try to get my phone back on to back this up just a tiny bit. Here you go. Now that should give you plenty of seating, or thing for light for seeing the seating. Here's a bench to sit on. Here's another bench to sit on. And 2 foot pegs to either put, while he's sitting down, you put his foot on that, and then he won't wobble around nearly as much. And I'll put another guy on the other side, and I'll see if I can do the same thing. Put his foot on the foot peg. It's a little tiny bit difficult, and my lack of dexterity and fat fingers don't really help, but there you go. Okay, there we go. And see now that he's in there. And I'm just going to put my big boa in there because he's my favorite figure. And what's a really cool thing that they didn't have to do, but there are like steps, and they're graded. Like all of this stuff, it's graded. And you can put him in there. And to be honest, if this is moving around, especially with the canopy down, but even with that, he doesn't move around that much. I mean, he's not going to fall down and get broken, at least. Now, one thing you may want to do, even though it's kind of goes against that, but you may want to put your figure backwards so that when the gun is facing that, it looks like it's facing at what it's shooting. Because you could put the gun like this, but Big Boa doesn't turn in there. So no matter which way you put the gun, he's not going to be like that. But for displays and for kind of a cool thing, you could just do that. But, you know, you do have the option of, you'll just have to open it every time and point him in the direction you want him to be in. But it's not terrible. I'm not trying to knock the toy, because the toy itself is really cool. Pivots really, or spins really nice, 360. The gun pivots really nicely, almost completely straight up. It doesn't depress, though, very much. It just has this standard spot here. But you can move the figure around easy enough, I suppose, to whatever position you want to put the figure in and put the gun in. And if you really want, you could probably put like a third guy in there. Kind of watching the other people's feet. And put it down. And then you've got even storage for even more soldiers. So if you get that, you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and with the little submarine, you could put 11 or 12 figures on this, because you got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you got 2 in the pod. You could probably, if you really, really tried, you could probably fit another figure in there. If you were looking to have like a bunch of eel divers. Yeah, but that doesn't really, yeah, I wouldn't recommend maybe doing that. I mean, it does shut, but it'd look really cramped, and I don't think you'd really want to do that. Besides, I don't know if you'd want to put figures in there like that and then have them be broken. Now, here's a really cool thing that I'm going to show you. You do want to put your vehicle back in there. You do want your skidoo in there. Well, this has little clips in the front. And what it has inside is a holding that's very thick. So I don't think too many people are ruining it. But you do that, and then they fit in there just right. And if you line it up right, there we go. Now I lined it up right. Now it won't rattle around at all. I mean, the figures will, but not the skidoo. That sits very nicely. Take these nice divers out. Take this guy off of here. And same thing for this. If you line it up just right, it really should just like click into place and hold very nicely. Now, here is the other piece that can sometimes break. Now, on mine here, you have the nice 699727, and then the bug, and then kind of repeated on the front here. It's got a really nice Cobra symbol on here with a trademark on there. Now, here's the part I don't like. Not only did they cut this off to make it so that the thing can sit in there better, but without that, because it's just this, it's just one piece, so none of the features spin, and that's too bad. Here's the other part of the problem. This has like a wind vane where you can just kind of move it and the things would go with it, and it's kind of keyed together with this piece. And this piece is nice and flat. But because so many kids put like pressure on it, this piece breaks, or the hinge breaks because you're moving it so much that these tiny, tiny little pins are all that hold that together. And if you're playing around with it or doing it, you can easily break that. Now I'm going to show another small feature that the undersides have. The underside of both the little submarine and the main part of the body of the craft has a gun, 2 guns, double-barreled. And what happens is, because these are so small and the plastic here is so thin, and because you can go all the way around with it, what happens sometimes is kids will be playing with it and they droop, and then they'll snag and break, and they'll break the tips off. I have to re-put the thing back in because there's a key point in there right here and right there for the because the guns can go all the way around. But what happens is these get loose. Kids are just playing with it. Kids are just doing, and then they get snagged on the carpet, and then they wreck. And that is really sad. Now, I'm going to show you how to put two figures in there. Once again, they have these seat belts. So you put a figure in here. I'll show you a thing in just a minute. And a good diver here. And they can sit very nicely in there, although the seatbelt's kind of getting in the way. I'm not a big fan of these seatbelts because they get in the way. But there we go. And you can hopefully see, and I'll put the clamshell down. Oh, you can see mine's kind of somewhat coming apart. Oops. That's why you need seatbelts. You do get jostled around in there a bit. And there we go. And you can have them go into the water, but these do not float. They go right to the bottom. We know this because we tested this out when we were in the pool at a hotel one time when we bought a bunch of these. Oh, I see what happened. There we go. And there you go. It can be under the water with its guns. And you've got the intakes and the exhaust in the back. This is a very cool pod. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like without pilots in it and without it all being covered up. It's very similar to the bridge part of the main sub. It's got a very small handhold here, joystick there, instrumentation, another thing for probably weapons, I'm guessing, or direction, or maybe one of each. It's got a little grating. Let's put a figure in there. And I will put hopefully get the seatbelt in. There we go. And I'll give a Toxo Viper here. His arms up. And I'll put his seatbelt on too. Hopefully. And hopefully you can see that. And this is what it looks like with two figures in it. Oh, I'll put his arms down. And there you go. That's what two figures look like in it. I think the Toxo Viper looks good in there because it kind of sticks out from the red, but the eels look really great in there. So, I know 1988 or 1985 eels wouldn't be sold at the same time, but they do look good in there. And the 88 Astro Viper and the 88 Toxo Viper just look real nice in there. I just think that they look not like they belong per se, but you wouldn't think they were super out of place. Here's the file card. I'll let you pause that and read that for yourself. Then I'll explain. Now, this is how you'll often find a Secto Viper. And he does not have his helmet. This has a very small little thing that can fall out very easily. This helmet was expensive, and I know it's going to be very difficult to see. Hope you will see that. I know it's difficult, but right there is a tiny little tab that fits into the figure, and it kind of clicks in. Yeah. And there you have a very nice figure. And here is his other accessory, his handgun pistol, which looks very sci-fi, looks very Star Trek inspired gun. It's got mechanical detail on it, and it's got a hand grip and stuff. So I mean, you at least know what it is. And you can, see, I have a little trouble getting mine into his hand, so I don't want to push too much. The way I was holding it before is like this, I think. Oops. Yeah, I was holding it like that to get him to hold it. But that's okay. There are cool things about this figure and some not so cool things about this figure. On his right arm, right here, is the Cobra symbol. And he's got the piping for like oxygen and probably like pressure, so that when he goes into the water, he's okay. Then he's got all of this tubing and pressurized suit. And it's got all these wiring and stuff for him to be able to breathe and dive underwater. But what kind of is sad is the yellow just takes all of the details out of it, because on the suit up here, he's got some really nice lines. Around here, he's got like a belt that's got like nylon straps. Nylon strapping on his suit here with that kind of texture, and even on his gloves. But some of the detail is so washed away because of just being a either all black or all yellow figure, with the piping only being red. It's very difficult to pick out the details. And I think if they just added like especially if they got this orangish red already, now I understand it probably costs more money, but if you'd have just had a few of those details painted in, I think it would have made the figure look a lot nicer. It would give him a bit more pop and a bit more thing. But other than that, I think he's a really nice figure. I don't think you got to worry too much about anything breaking on this figure. He seems like a fairly sturdy and all-around figure, but a gun or a pistol or a thing for any figure can get lost, and helmets for any figure can easily be lost as well. Now, when I said that the file card has an interesting thing on it, I don't think his name is supposed to be Secto Viper. I looked up Secto and I didn't really get anything. It was, I don't know, just some like it, I don't remember what it even said. I looked it up, and I'm not even going to bother looking it up again, but I don't remember what it said, and it didn't really mean anything anyway. But what I think it means, or what it was supposed to be, is if you read the file card, it says he has to know every square inch of his sector. And there are 27 sectors on Cobra Island. So I think it was a misspelling, because I think it's supposed to be Sector Viper, where he controls an entire sector. I think the reason it's 27 sectors is because I think the thing is, the Cobra Island is 27 square miles, so each one has to protect a mile of land, I believe. Like you've got an entire sector, a whole a mile or so too. Or it might even be kilometer. I can't remember. I don't remember looking at the map well enough. But there's 27, it's 27 like square miles or square kilometers. And he's got to patrol an entire kilometer or mile of the island with his vehicle. So I think that's where the secto, I think, with zero things to back this up and zero evidence to back up my claim, I just think that makes more sense than the word secto, which doesn't mean anything. But with that being said, this is a cool vehicle, a cool figure. You can fit lots of figures onto the vehicle, and it's a really, really nice toy. Please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications so you don't miss any videos and any of our awesome reviews. Well, thank you for watching, and we will see you
next time.
Bye.